All right, now that our front is wrapped up, let's move to the rear and work on the park assist and rear bumper install. All right, coming back to the rear of the Jeep here, we have our OEM replacement bumper with our sensor holes on there. As you can see, our factory sport bumper came pretty bare. So we got this new park assist bumper that we're gonna put on. We have our sensors, all the wiring harness and module that we need to get this working. But before I pull off the factory bumper, what I'm gonna do is put the sensors in to show you how these things snap in here, because there is a way to them. So let's flip this around. All right, so from here, you're gonna wanna grab your Infotainment park assist harness, as well as the sensors. Before you drop them into the bumper, there is an index on here. They have to sit in there a certain way. So looking at the sensors, if you see on either side, there's almost like a couple of wings sticking off the sides here. On one side, you'll notice this raised portion on one of the wings. So this right here, you have to line up with the clip. There's a recess in the clip, and it'll only go in one way. So if it's not really sitting in there right, it's because you have this little notch sticking down here on the wrong side. So this is that little recess that I'm talking about. So here you have your two sides where your wings are gonna slide down in. This side right here has a little drop down, and that's where that notch is gonna sit right into. So once you get it lined up correctly, it'll seat all the way in and both sides will snap in. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually just gonna plug all the sensors into the wires and make sure that the main connector here at the end of the wires is ran towards the passenger side of the vehicle. And the end of the wire that has the last sensor plug in it goes towards the driver's side. So, oops, I'll plug this in. And then I'll set this in place and it'll snap right in there. All right, well, let's do that for the remaining 3 sensors. All right, now there's a little bit of slack here. I'm just gonna go ahead and zip tie those to these 2 holes that are already in our bumper. Before we get into taking the bumper off, we're gonna show you how to remove this, just because it's a little tight in between the tire down there. With our new bumper filler plate and the filler plate mount, this is how it's sitting inside your tire well, connected to that back bumper. So this piece right here is held on by 3 8mm bolts. You're gonna remove those 8mm bolts, get this piece out of the way, and then you'll have access to the 4 remaining bolts that hold this bracket on. I think they're 16mm, but I'm not entirely too sure until I get in there. But yeah, you're gonna pull those 4 bolts out, take this bracket out, and then all that's left is the 4 bumper bolts that are holding on the bumper and your license plate plug for the license plate light. So before you remove these and pull everything off, you're going to want to unplug the license plate light, obviously. But yeah, this is all you're basically dealing with back here. Nothing too crazy, so let's do this on the Jeep. All right, we're going to start on the passenger side first. We're going to remove these 3 8mm. And it really helps if you have an angle ratchet. If not, regular hand tools should be fine. Get this piece out of the way. Now we have access to the, where is it? Right there. These 4 bolts that we need to remove so we can get this plate off as well. Yep, these are all 16mm bolts. Grab our impact and we'll pull these off too. All right, now we can jump to the other side and do the same thing. All right, now that we got everything out of the way, we can go ahead and remove our license plate or our tag light connector here. All right, and grab your panel tool and pop this little clip off. All that's left are these 2 16mm bolts. Remove those from both sides and we can pull our bumper off. All right. We went ahead and grabbed our swivel for this top one. It's kind of in there. If you don't have a swivel, you can use a gear wrench or open-ended wrench or something. All right, let's move to the other side. All right, let's pull our bumper off. All right, now we can open our swing gate and pull our bumper out. Nothing holding it on now. It's just a piece of plastic essentially, so it's not incredibly heavy. It's just kind of large and awkward. Now we can pull our license plate light and transfer that over, as well as our license plate. All right, so to swap over your tag light, it's basically this wiring harness right here, a bunch of Christmas tree type pops that we have to pop off. We'll disconnect this connector here, and then it's 2 10mm nuts holding that tag light on. Now we'll pull this clip out. There we go. And basically it's just depressing that button on top, pulling straight out. And now we'll pull these 10mm off. Oh, that's tightened. Push out, the light should pop out. There you go. All right, we'll swap that over. And now we can pull our license plate off. It's probably a 3/8. Oh no, 10mm works. All right, now we can discard our old bumper. Sell it on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. All right, now we grab our new bumper. We'll just push our light in there. That's good. We'll flip it over, and this bumper is a little bit tighter to put those 10mm back in, but definitely doable. It's got a little opening right here. You can just kind of hand thread this on there. All right. All right, and that should be all we really need. Now we can go ahead and set our bumper back on the Jeep. All right, now we're ready to throw this bumper on there. We'll have to open that swing gate back up again. And our original bumper had threaded studs in the bumper. This one has, or threaded nutserts. This one has studs sticking out of the bumper. So basically, instead of the bumper just dropping, we can hang it on those studs as we set it back in. All right, we can throw the 16mm nuts back on. All right, so now, being that these are studs, I'm gonna pre-thread the nut onto the stud here. because there's not as much space as I had to remove it in between there. So I'm gonna have to use an open end wrench to tighten that one down. This bottom one should be all right for the impact though. All right. I'll tighten that up by hand. Now we can connect our tag light back in there, and we'll take this little pop and push that back in. All right, now we can put our bracket back on and our plastic wheel well filler piece. All right, we're gonna put our brackets back in, and we have new brackets that we're using, but you can definitely reuse your factory brackets on this. I'm just using these because they're cleaner than the ones that we pulled out. All right, let's jump over to the passenger side. All right, coming over to the passenger side, we're gonna do the same thing with our bumper studs. After we tighten this down, we'll put our bracket back on, but we're gonna leave that filler piece off. Reason being is we're gonna run this parking sensor wire up over and into the taillight cavity. So this makes it just a little bit easier with that plastic filler plate out of the way. All right, now we'll run this parking sensor wire up above all these brackets. All right, we'll stick this up in here and we will pull our tail light off and pull our wires through. All right, so next we're gonna pop this little cover off to expose our 10mm screw that's holding on our tail light. And having an angle helps. It's also a T30 Torx in the center of that, I think, but that strips out pretty easy, so I like to use the 10mm socket on there. Then we can pull our tail light out. We'll go ahead and disconnect it, get it out of the way, because we're going to be installing our module right up in this area, right in here. All right, we left that bumper filler plate off so we can have our hand in here. And essentially you can just reach around and pull this wire right up. All right, we left that filler plate off of the bumper and the tire well on this side. That way we can access this hole and pull our wire right up through here. Makes it really easy. Once you have your wire up in here, you can go ahead and plug it into your module. There's 3 locations on this module. It's gonna be the center location. Now we can apply some double-sided tape to here and clean off the mating surface up here because essentially this module is going right up into this location. All right, now that adhesive promoter is nicely tacked, from this point you can actually break these tabs off if you wanted to, or cut these tabs off so you don't crack the plastic here. But if you cut these tabs off, it'll fit a little bit better in there. I'm going to leave it on just because I'm going to position it in a way where it's not really going to affect anything. But yeah, I'm going to put some double-sided tape on here. All right, and I'll actually just sit this on the side for now. I'm going to go into the Jeep to gain access to this grommet here. Just like the other side, we use this grommet to run our wires into the vehicle. We're going to do the same thing on this side. I'll go in and remove all those interior panels, make a cut into this grommet, and then we can run our interior body harness through the grommet. All right, so removing the interior panel is pretty easy. We have our OEM Audio Plus subwoofer here. We're going to have to remove to run the wires, but it's not necessary to remove it to remove these panels. So you have a little plastic panel that pops up that's going around your your seat belt. Let me try and get this so it doesn't sling back at me. There we go. And this panel here and this panel here needs to be removed. So from here, it's gonna sound not too good, but essentially you're just trying to snap all the snaps off. So if you just pull back, you should be able to unclip all the snaps. If you have some white clips pop off on you, like this one, make sure not to lose those. Save them, put them back on the back side of the panel. And then this piece here pops upwards, and you can kind of twist it out of there. All right, now we have access to our grommet here. And this is what we're going to use to run our wire through. You can grab your razor blade, cut a slice in here. I usually like making little X's when running big connectors through. This one's not too bad. So a little slice should be okay. I always try to make the hole a little bit smaller than the connector, and I just kind of force the connector through. And because our module is going right underneath this panel here, we don't need a whole lot of the wire to come through, so I'm just gonna leave a few inches coming through, and I'll put the grommet right back on. All right, now we can go and reattach our or we can attach that cable to our module and stick our module up underneath the inside the tail light cavity. All right, now that we got our wire through, we'll click it into place. It is going to be the connector to the far left if you're looking at the module straight on. Now we can pull our tape backing off and we'll stick it up there. All right, and our wire coming up from the parking sensors themselves, I'm just gonna throw a zip tie right around that harness just to kind of keep it in place. But from this point, you can go ahead and put your tail light back on, and that filler piece that we left off earlier, we can attach that to. All right, now before we move forward with running the wire, because we have our OEM Audio Plus subwoofer here, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. If you don't have a sub here, you can just skip this step. You'll just have to pull your carpet back to access the star connector that's back here and run your wire. Let me pull this sub off real quick. All right, now that we got our sub pulled out of the way, that's all we really have to do. We can set this back up when we're done. We're gonna access this connector back here. You can swing this out to the side. It has a little black cover on it. If you squeeze the outsides, you should be able to pop it up. There you go. And it just pops straight out. And basically on our wiring harness, all we have to do is get the CAN connector, plug it into any one of these slots, and we'll put that cover back on and we'll rotate that back in place. All right, from here, we'll run our wires down behind everything, and I'll zip tie everything up to this wiring harness that's in here. And I'll grab the star connector and plug it right into this open spot here. There we go. All right, I'll throw some zip ties on this harness here. I'm gonna zip tie all these wires up, just following kind of that factory path. So once we put everything back together, it's gonna look like we weren't really in here. All right, we got our CAN connector connected. We'll pop the cover back on. Kind of got to stuff all these wires into the center there. There we go. And rotate it back so it's flat, so it's not sticking out like this. That way you can put your carpet and everything right back over it. And from this point, we can go ahead and reassemble everything we removed here, because all we have to do now is run our easy DC connection up towards the front. So we won't need to access anything back here anymore. All right, before you put this rear panel back on, you just want to kind of give a visual check, make sure all your clips and everything are back in or haven't fallen out. And if they did, you can put them back in. But we'll grab this outside piece here, slide that back into place, line up the clips and snap that in. And this panel out here, make sure to move that seal out of the way. That might fight you a little bit. But it should just snap all back together pretty simply. And then lastly, you can put your top cover back on. Tuck the seal back together. And lastly, put your cover back on. All right, let's go run that wire up to the front. We're gonna need to run this wire up to the front, and essentially where we're trying to reach is right underneath the radio to get to that power port. So with this carpet, all I did was pull it back a little bit. If you wanted to be more thorough, you can pull this panel out, but it's really not necessary. You can just kind of pull it out slightly just to get a little gap and tuck the wire in all the way down. I'll throw this in between the door here. Oop. Now to slide this wire up through the front here. All right, grab my panel tool and that'll help me run this up to the front. And you can just continue all the way down till you work your way around the kick panel area. All right, once you get your wire up to around this area here, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can either pull this kick panel out, up, or what I like to do is you can just grab this carpet here, unsnap the snap back there, and you can literally pull the carpet all the way out without removing anything. We'll unsnap this snap here as well. All right, now that we got our wire up to the center console area, we'll just leave this here for now. We'll remove the climate control cluster and the panel right below it with your window switches and your aux switches. We'll take all that off so we can access our power port 12-volt port, so we can power our module back there. All right, now we're gonna remove the climate control cluster here with our push start button. And we've done this many times on video. Pretty simple. With a panel tool, just pop that out. It'll pop straight out. If you haven't done it on yours, it might be a little tight. And keep in mind all the white clips that are on there. you want to make sure you don't lose any inside the dash. Set that aside. Now to remove this bottom panel here, you have a single Phillips screw right in the center. Pull that out, and this is the same thing basically, just a bunch of clips holding it on. You can grab that, pull that out of the way. All right, and that's basically all we need to get to. What we're looking for is our 12-volt port, 12-volt charging port that is not on our panel here because we swapped it out for the brake controller. But the line is still back here. This is all we're looking for. We're going to tee off of this connection that we've actually teed off before. So we're going to run this line with our fuse up into this cavity here. All right, now that we got access to the back of our center console there, we're going to remove the glove box. And to do that, on the side here, there's an arm that you slide upwards in its channel and pull out. And that'll free this arm from supporting the glove box. And now up on the top side, you have this plastic lip here. You just got to flex that out of the way to free that glove box, and then you can pull straight out. There's nothing else holding it on from that point. Now our wire, the reason we pulled this out is because this will make it really easy to run our wire up into that cavity. You don't need any tools or anything. You just can kind of feed this around this bracket in here, kind of work your way up. And where this arm is attached, you want to bring that wire on the inside of that arm. It's around the AC ducting and that arm. Now you can literally just feed it right into that center console. And that's all we need there. Now we can throw all of this stuff back together. All right, now all we got to do is connect our power port to this wire here. I'm going to tuck all this stuff down where there's a little bit more room, and we can throw this panel back on. And put that Phillips screw back into the center here. And we can throw our climate control cluster back in. Don't forget to plug in your push start button and snap this panel right back in. If you have a hard time, you may have to pull this knee bolster panel out a little bit to get that lip under there. And there you have it. That completes the install. All right, so with the install of our rear bumper and the rear parking sensors, that gives us our park assist and really completes the safety upgrade that we did on this Jeep with the blind spot monitoring. Huge upgrade. If you're looking for something a little bit more safe, you got kids around, dogs, you know, that's a really good upgrade to have. But yeah, that concludes this video. For upgrades like this and more, check out Infotainment.com.